We got some tanks, we got some terrain, we got some planes. So let's get into some 9th edition speculation right after this quick intro. Welcome everyone to week 3 of news and speculation about Warhammer 40k 9th edition. In this week we got a ton of news like we did last week. Now I'm kind of already going to say I'm concerned because we're quickly going to pretty much have the entire rule set by the end of next week, pretty much, right? I mean, what else is there to go over? Granted, they said that the rules are now a couple times bigger than the rules before, but at this point, I'm starting to wonder, what are they going to pull from? Now, they could have a bunch of filler. They did have a filler episode this week, and that was Monday, and that was the art filler episode and of Warhammer 40k Daily. And basically, we got a rehash of art that was released over the previous 2 weeks. In fact, Games Workshop decided not even to really have a post about it on Warhammer Community because they'd already done it over the weekend. So while I love Warhammer 40k art, we're not here to talk about the Warhammer 40k art. We're here to talk about the rules for 9th editions. We got some great ones on Tuesday, and that was the changes to tanks and, of course, by proxy, monsters, flyers, and walkers as well. Now, this is broken down basically 2 big differences and changes to 9th edition. The first one being, and we'll just quickly go through it, is that basically -1 penalty for moving and shooting heavy weapons is gone. Yes, great change, fantastic. It should have been done. It should have never been in the edition, I think, in 8th at all. Now that's gone. Great change. Now you can move your flyers, not have to worry about that -1 penalty. You can move your Land Raider, not have to worry about that minus... Wait a second. They had Power of the Machine Spirit. What about those abilities? Well, thankfully, Stu did mention in Warhammer 40k that they're aware of units that have powers and abilities that negated that -1 anyway. So as codexes are released, that's going to get updated. Now, this is such an annoying gripe that I have to just mention really quickly, is that Games Workshop, just put it in the core rules. Change all units that have that ability and just give them a new ability. Don't have to change it every time a codex is. Now we're going to have these weird units that they're going to have basically a deficiency because that rule doesn't do anything anymore. Instead we have to wait for codexes to get them updated or have them removed or retconned or however they want to, do it. So anyway, stupid, lame Games Workshop stuff, but hey, they've been doing it since the inception of the game, so they're going to continue to do it. Now, the real big news, and another great fantastic information, was that tanks, walkers, flyers, monsters now can also shoot into combat if they have weapons that don't have the blast keyword. This is actually a big thing, and something that people are forgetting is that, monsters like the Exocrine or tanks like the Vindicator, they're kind of still stuck in the same boat as they were before. Tag the monster, they can't shoot, or maybe they'll shoot a Stormbolter, whoop-de-doo. And for the majority of tanks and vehicles, that's going to be the case as well, because you're going to have a pintle-mounted stubber, heavy stubber, maybe a heavy bolter here and there. You're not going to be able to clear off the horde. So you might be able to kill off a few cultists here and there, a few Homergounts here and there, but you're really going to still be stuck. Now, of course, it's better than it was before, but you're still stuck. And as we've seen, we don't know what the actual rules are for falling back for tanks anymore. If the fly keyword is the only way to fall back and still shoot, we don't know if tanks can fall back and shoot. Otherwise, this change, while on the surface seems really big, and like I said, it is a great rule change and it is a cool one, but at the same time, it's not that earth-shaking. It's only really kind of earth-shaking for specific units, and that's something like a Lehman Russ battle tank. And the reason for that is because they can put on kick-ass spawns and weapons and just have a load of weapons, or something like a repulsor, which has tons of weapons, but at the same time, a repulsor just can fly out and shoot anyway. So it's a give and take. Give and take? Did you see what I did there? Oh yeah, that was on purpose, I swear. Anyway, Wednesday. Great new rules as well. We get the detailed rules on blasts, and now, frankly, I have to say I was surprised on how powerful blasts looks to be. Not is it only just, giant Hormagaunt units that are going to get hit with max shots. They are also including anything that's a unit that's like 6 to 10, which means your full-size tack squads, if people still take those. Intercessor squads, they're going to get hit with at least 3 shots from random variable weapons. Now, this does exclude flamers, I believe. I think Stu mentioned that. I'm not sure if it's clear in Warhammer 40k community, but if it is, tell me in the comments below. I honestly can't remember at the time of recording this, and I don't really want to go back and look it up. I'd rather have you tell me what it is in the comments to correct me. So, this also kind of gets back to my other theory I've been kind of pushing for the last couple weeks, and that is MSU is back. And this is just another clear evidence of this. The counter to elites is going to be MSU, especially with how missions are going to work. You're just going to want to feed the board as many MSU minimum squad units as possible. You know what's also going to be good with MSU is grenades. I'm surprised they extended this rule for Blast to grenades. Now your frag grenades are going to get 6 shots automatically. Compound this with current stratagems for a few factions where you can throw multiple grenades is quite devastating. Also, think about the Intercessor Auxiliary Grenade Launcher. That's going to get max shots, or at least half max shots, depending on what you're shooting at and how big they are. So that's a great rule change. Now, I'm guessing as the edition goes on, those type of rules where an entire unit can throw a bunch of grenades are going to be removed. But for the time being, hello Death Guard, you're looking pretty fancy right now. Okay, let's move on to Thursday. And Thursday had the clarification on exactly how terrain rules will work. This is where I was, kind of clenching a little bit, going, oh God, GW, you're gonna screw this up. Kind of ended up being a mixed bag for me, and I feel like we're not getting everything here. Now, we got the general 4 categories of terrain, which includes area terrain, and that's pretty cool that that's making a comeback, but at the same time, these are just categories, just groupings of how terrain is. It's probably not really specific rules to what area terrain is. Hills continuously will not do anything, but the big thing is that you can give terrain traits, and they gave a few examples in the Warhammer community page of, say, ruins. They get light terrain, they get light cover, obscured, scalable, all these kind of frivolous traits that don't sound that very powerful, or just kind of, it sounds just like clarification of what we were already playing ruins as. Now, the danger here is that there's going to be a crap ton of traits that you can add to terrain. But the good thing is that Stu was very clear in Warhammer 40k Daily, and that was that most games are just going to say this thing has obscured and has light terrain, and that's the end of it. So that means that terrain doesn't really change that much, which is great news, and I hope players just do that, maybe add hard cover or one extra additional trait to the terrain. But beyond that, most games are just going to be how they've been being played. He clarifies how obscures works, and basically the cool thing there is that they specify inches, and any terrain that's higher than 5 inches gives obscure to a target. Super clear, super clean, like that change. As well, obscure doesn't affect units that have more than 18 wounds. So sorry Mortarians, sorry Knights, you can't hide behind a brick and get a bonus cover save. Just isn't gonna happen. You don't get it. So clarification, easy changes. Now, what I do want to get into is GW walking back table sizes from the previous week. In their terrain article, they went out of their way to stop them getting angry emails and angry chat messages and angry Facebook posts declaring how, clarify, tell us how big our games need to be. They said specifically that the game is set to a minimum size for whatever the listing was. So I think it's 44 by 60, but you're still okay to play your 4 by 6 games as long as you want until the next edition comes out, when they're going to say, hey, no, you're playing the small table. Hey everyone, sorry for breaking my rant, which I do hope you continue to listen. It is actually kind of entertaining, at least from my perspective. Anyway, I'm interrupting this because I'm going to continue this discussion after this rant about mats and the size of the game, and how this is going to affect an entire industry that has cropped up with Games Workshop and Warhammer 40k specifically. So there's a link in the description below. Please click that. Go read that article. I think it's a really great article. At least I wrote it, so of course I think it's great. So go check that out. Anyway, back to the rant, back to the rest of the video. Thanks guys, bye. It's this classic GW saying, hey, you can do whatever you want. We're not going to give you rules. You don't really have to follow them, even though that you're going to follow them because all the tournaments are going to be playing in this standard, and we're going to start selling terrain. I'm sorry, we're going to start selling boards in that size, so you better get used to it. But trust me, you're safe. It's okay. You can play the 6x4. Don't worry about it. It's so disingenuous and so pointless that GW even made that claim just to kind of, appease, some neckbirds that can't handle some change. And to just show how disingenuous it is, they showed images of what's in the rulebook of a standard table size. And guess what the standard table size was for a 2K game? 60 by 44. So it's clear GW intends for the game to move to this size, and that's what the standard size is going to eventually be. But for the time being, they didn't want to get flamed anymore. So they said, hey, you can play your 6x4 tables as long as you want, which in reality, we all know is not going to be the case once this edition gets going. So GW, stop trying to play both sides and appease everyone. We know your intention is, we know it's eventually going to be. So that's my little rant about that. So finally, we have Friday, and Friday brings us flyers. Once again, we didn't get anything really kind of earth-shattering here. We got kind of just the same, clarification of what we already assumed was going to be the case. First off, flyers can leave the board. They can't block out infantry anymore. Basically, just kind of getting rid of all the gamey shenanigans, as Stu repeated about 20 times in the 30 minutes in which he talked about flyers in the 40k Daily. It was basically just saying they're just trying to get rid of gamey stuff with flyers. So now flyers are going to get a special keyword called aircraft that will basically distinguish them from, your harpies and your helldrakes. So helldrakes and harpies are going to interact just like basically a vehicle, pretty much from what this sounds like it. Maybe they get some bonus rules that interact with the aircraft, but for the time being, you're talking about your Valkyries, your Storm Ravens, and everything like that. Now, what is one little minor detail we do want to talk about is how strategic reserves work. We don't have the rules for strategic reserve specifically yet. I'm guessing that's going to be part of next week, but how they interact with flyers is interesting. It basically means you can spend command points and you can put something in reserve. This includes flyers. The flyers can come on the board within 9 inches of any enemy. Now, what isn't clear, and I'm sure we're going to get to, and hopefully GW will specify, is how does this work for transport flyers? So a Storm Raven or a Valkyrie with Scions in it. How are they going to be deployed? Does this rule still apply? I'm guessing it's going to be the flyer can be within 9 inches, and as well the infantry inside or whatever is inside those flyers is going to have to be 9 inches away. I'm just going to assume it's going to be that because that seems pretty consistent. But this also is kind of cool because it gives us a hint on what we're getting next week, strategic reserves. I'm guessing we're going to get our next, Tuesday or Wednesday to get that rule. But depending on how many command points that ends up going to be, this is going to be probably the biggest change in the edition. And that's the ability to basically bring your army however you want to bring it on, avoiding alpha strikes and all that good stuff. Now, I do want to go back just a little bit about terrain. Back to Wednesday, actually. Stu did talk about and kind of mentioned that he doesn't want people castling, and that the missions and the terrain rules and basically the rules kind of in general, like the overarching rules, not specific rules for units and that sort of thing, but the overarching rules of the game is that they don't want people to do gamey stuff. And what he specifically said on Wednesday is that he doesn't like kind of the idea of castling. He didn't seem to really like the idea of screens that much. As it stands, we're going into week 4 next week, and like I said in the beginning of this video, where are we going? How many more rules do we have to get? But let's end with this. Please, subscribe to this video if you've gotten this far. Hit the like button if you've gotten this far. And, in the comments, tell me how much you love me. Well, you don't have to tell me how much you love me. Just comment, please. I like comments. At least you're watching and hitting the like button, but I would like comments. Anyway, guys, see you next week.